What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be doing the second part to my official 2023 NBA mock draft, where in this video we're actually going to be looking at the players I have going from pick number 6 to, of course, pick number 10. And if you're, of course, wondering who I actually selected with the first 5 picks in this draft, I do highly recommend you guys go and check out my first video where I do, of course, talk about all of that. This way you guys can be all up to date, and I hopefully will not see any comments saying, why didn't you pick this guy, all that type of stuff. The reason I might not have drafted that guy is because he might have already been drafted in my first part. So I do highly recommend you guys, of course, do go and check that out if you would. Again, that will, of course, be linked in the description down below. Now, before I get into it, I would like to also point out that we, of course, don't officially know where every single team will be drafting in 2023. That's due to the fact that, of course, the lottery hasn't, of course, happened at the time of making this video. So I will actually be going off based what the standings is and all that type of stuff. So again, with the 6th overall pick, it has definitely changed a couple times in the last couple days. But at the time of making this video, the Portland Trailblazers actually own the 6th pick, and this was a really hard player, I think, to kind of select for them, because it's really hard to kind of tell what direction Portland are going to be going in. Will they be, potentially trading this pick to continue to maybe furthermore, try and add another star to help Dame contend for a championship? Or will they, be doing what they did last season, where they draft another top 10 pick player to kind of develop alongside Dame and all of the above? And that's what I kind of think they're probably going to be doing in this draft. So in kind of taking that all in, I do actually have them taking best available, and it so happens that the best available kind of fits what Portland actually need right now. So with the 6th overall pick, I do have the Portland Trailblazers selecting Jarris Walker, who is, of course, I believe, a 6'7", 6'8", very heavy, strong type of power forward who is extremely athletic and can definitely, catch a lob here and there. Just a very versatile option. He's being compared to a bit of a John Collins type of, Paul Millsap type of player as well. He's being said that not only can he guard the 4 very well, but he's also flexible enough to actually move over to that 5 position if needed. He's, of course, also being listed as a really solid 3-point shooter and a nice mid-range shooter as well, even having decent field goal efficiency at the moment. And I just think he honestly kind of fits what the Portland Trailblazers are kind of wanting to do right now. And they've already got a couple of certified guards, of course, in Shaedon Sharpe, Damian Lillard, Anthony Simons. And then they've, of course, got a really certified forward in Jeremy Grant. I think it'd actually be really cool to kind of add another one of those guys in Jarris Walker, who not only can help with the defense that they do, of course, sometimes lack, but can switch onto that 4 and that 5, definitely help out from the perimeter, but also being an athletic beast who can honestly potentially crash the boards and also score off a Damian Lillard lob, off a pick and roll, all of that type of stuff. I definitely think Jarris Walker has the capability of doing. Now, there's nothing really kind of flashy about this guy's stats. He is averaging 11 and a 7 per game. That is 11 points and 7 rebounds. But he honestly, just the way he kind of plays and the way he goes about it, really does seem like it would kind of convert over to the NBA. And I think that was kind of what was being said about John Collins before he was, of course, drafted into the NBA as well. I really do think when we look at a guy like Jarris Walker, he kind of ticks that same thing. And I just think this guy can definitely help out the Portland Trailblazers, and he gives them a reason to not want to trade this pick if this is where the Trailblazers do, of course, select from. If you add a guy like Jarris Walker, this can definitely help and really change the dynamic of this Portland Trailblazers team. I really don't think Portland are as off as what a lot of people think they are. There is definitely a lot of changes and things they still do desperately need to make, but I'm really happy with Damian Lillard wanting to be loyal, and he's actually been content with staying as a Portland Trailblazer, and I really think there's still a lot to build on with this team. Their starting five is pretty decent. We'll get that straight out of the way. That's definitely a really nice thing about their team. But their bench is really not that good, in my opinion. And I think if you go out and sign, draft Jarvis Walker, of course, maybe go out and sign a potential another starter, right? We could be looking at a situation where you're moving players like Matisse Thybulle and Cam Reddish, of course, to that bench type of role. Therefore, they can also go and sign maybe some more veteran type of dudes to come off that bench. I think their starting five before the trade deadline was really nice. Now, it could definitely do some work, but I still think it's pretty solid. But you get a couple dudes on there who could definitely come off the bench and maybe impact there as well. So, for their starting five, look, there might be a little bit of work because, of course, they did trade Josh Hart. But before that, it was looking really, really nice and something that they could definitely build on and add to by the bench. And if you're bringing in a dude like Jarvis Walker, a player like that, and you go out and do a couple other things here and there, I think the Portland Trailblazers could definitely be a really solid team going forward. So that's why I have them selecting Jarvis Walker with the 6th overall pick. Now moving on to pick number 7, we of course do have the Indiana Pacers, who have definitely been a bit of a shock team, I think, in 2023. They've, of course, dropped off a bit, but showed really promising signs with Tyrese Halliburton, Benedict Mathurin, and, of course, Miles Turner just being a really good, I want to call big three, and I definitely think they will progress into being one of the biggest big threes, if that makes sense, in the NBA. And I still think there is a lot of room to add there, and there's a real big kind of Indiana Pacer type of player who's available on the board right now, who I kind of think would somewhat fit this, of course, Pacers team. And that actually does, of course, happen to be Cam Whitemore, who I believe is a 6'7" small forward who is being compared to a bit of OG Anunoby and Desmond Bane as well. But I actually like that OG Anunoby comparison a bit more. Kind of a guy who doesn't need to be a big shot creator, but a guy who can, be a very consistent three-point shooter who can maybe defend 1 through 4 and just be an extremely versatile defender on the court. And I think that's what we're kind of looking like we're going to be seeing with Cam Whitemore. I think the ability to maybe turn into a bit of a shot creator will be there. We know OG and Desmond Bane kind of ended up becoming shot creators as their their career has gone on further and further at the time of making this video. Of course, the thing is with, Cam Whitemore is he will definitely be a project player, as he is just a decent defender now. It's not like he's extremely elite at that, but the potential is definitely there, and I think he can really mount into being a very solid defender in the NBA. He's just really known to be a really nice shooter who I think can kind of move around the field and just be a really good around the court, and just be a really, really consistent guy like that. Again, he's not exactly that great when it comes to ball handling or anything like that, but the kind of beauty thing about this Indiana Pacers team is he doesn't exactly need to be. They've already got a bunch of really great guys who can handle the ball and pass the rock. If you're bringing in a dude like, Cam Whitemore, he kind of fills in what this Pacers team doesn't have consistently, and that is maybe a guy who's going to be an elite role player in the NBA. I think what they are going to want right now is for Benedict Mathurin and, of course, potentially Tyrese Halliburton to be the 2 big shot creators on this team, the 2 all-star type of guys. And then I think they're going to want Miles Turner to be the, perennial defender of this team as well. They've already got all of these boxes kind of ticked. The only couple things I think they might need are some extremely good role players, which they somewhat already have one in Buddy Hield, but could definitely furthermore build on that. And of course, maybe some more rebounding here and there, and maybe a player to play that power forward position down the line. So you could go and draft Cam Whitemore, maybe trade a Buddy Hield or so to bring in a power forward here and there as well. One that could be on the move very soon is like a John Collins. I just think, geez, imagine seeing a team that'd be like Halliburton at the 1, Mathurin at the 2, Whitemore at the 3, Collins at the 4, and Turner at the 5. Oh my god. Everyone in there can guard everyone. They all are pretty decent shooters. Collins maybe not at the moment, but has definitely shown he can be in his career. Bunch of athletic beasts in there as well. Like, goddamn, that team would be really good looking on paper. And yeah, I think Cam Whitemore might be somewhat of a more of a mystery to some of the players that I have, you know, kind of talked about previously. But this is a dude that could come in and be an extremely versatile shooter. Maybe can develop on that shot creating and I think defensive end as well. But I think that's what is so good about this guy, is it already looks like he is getting there. And by the time he's in the NBA, could, yeah, turn that extremely good shooting touch all around the court into being an elite shot creator maybe one day as well. Like, if it doesn't work out, then whatever, right? But if it does work out, then yeah, you've got like 3 really good young shot creators on this Indiana Pacers team. And worst thing for Cam Whitemore is he might be an elite shooter, which is that's a pretty promising sign in the NBA. If you can be an elite shooter and defend your player and just do your role, there's not much more you can ask for. And I definitely think this is the type of guy who can maybe accomplish something like that in the NBA. So with the 7th overall pick, I do have the Indiana Pacers selecting Cameron Whitemore. Now with the 8th overall pick, this is a team that, yeah, I'm not exactly too sure how I feel about this team. It's a very interesting one, but it is the Washington Wizards. I am also very happy that Bradley Beal has decided to, you know, stay. I think it's a very awesome thing to have loyalty among players, and it's, I think, a good thing to know that there is a player who is here right now who is willing to help build this team and help rebuild it, and is going to be here for the long term. So I just think it makes a whole lot of sense to continue to hit the draft, which they've been doing, and hopefully for them, they'll finally nail an extremely good pick, which they haven't been able to do in the last couple years, unfortunately, with players like Johnny Davis just not really panning out so far. Of course, they're still young, and we still got to give them time. They could become very good players, but at the end of the day, the player who I have them drafting, I think, will hopefully change this team. And again, he's a bit of a tiny bit of a project, but also this guy has a lot of potential to be like a Josh Giddey type of players who he's being compared to, and that is, of course, Anthony Black. I think the big thing this Washington Wizards team has been needing for a very long time is a playmaking point guard, and even though Anthony Black's stats haven't exactly been that great when it does come to the playmaking, and he definitely has a lot of potential to make those extremely good, you know, flashy passes, like a couple of the NBL players who have gone into the NBA, those being LaMelo Ball and, of course, Josh Giddey. Now, Anthony Black didn't actually go to the NBL, but he kind of plays a lot like those two guys. He actually comes from Arkansas College, and again, he's actually been compared to Josh Giddey and a bit of Sean Livingston as well, which are pretty good comparisons. This guy is a very nice 6'7" guard who can definitely play, I think, the 1 through the 3. He is a really unselfish player who can definitely make some really nice, smart passes. He's also got a really decent jump shot that may need to, of course, develop his 3-point shot, but it is looking really nice. But he's a guy who's a pass-first type of guy who I think could really benefit this Washington Wizards team down the line. It's something that they really haven't had the luxury of having, is a point guard that will actually pass the ball and help out on that type of, you know, side of the NBA. And I think if you put a dude like Anthony Black there and you tell him all you got to do is pass the ball and be a versatile defender, which the Washington Wizards kind of have neither of, unfortunately, then yeah, you're filling two of, I think, the biggest holes that this Wizards team has in passing and defense. And I think this would be awesome to partner up with Bradley Beal and potentially Kristaps. No idea if Kyle Kuzma's going to be here for the long run. Again, this big three just unfortunately hasn't really worked that well. I don't know if it's the supporting cast or what it is that they have on this team that is completely going wrong. I just think it's the lack of defense and playmaking being the two main culprits. And yeah, they unfortunately missed out last year where a couple players that they wanted to draft, like Dyson Daniels, didn't actually fall to them, and Dyson Daniels was of course drafted the Pelicans, who I also think isn't really working that well there. Would have been awesome to see him on this Wizards team. But yeah, they need a dude like Dyson Daniels, they need a guy like Josh Giddey, those guys who are both happen to be Australian, but both happen to be guys who are like 6'7", can defend really, really well, have a decent jump shot, and of course are really nice playmakers. Anthony Black fits that criteria, and as I said, he brings in two things that the Wizards don't have, which is defense and playmaking. Of course, he will be not probably as efficient in those things coming into the NBA. We've seen a lot of point guards in recent times like Darius Garland, struggle in the NBA at the start, but then eventually develop into being a really good player. I think Dyson Daniels is going to be another one of those guys. And then Anthony Black, not sure it will click for him straight away. But again, if Bradley Beal is patient, which he has been for an extremely long time, so I don't see why he wouldn't be. I think Anthony Black would be a nice fit. And yeah, a guy who will average you, hopefully for them, maybe 12 points and 5 or 6 rebounds maybe in his first year, and 5 assists maybe. Definitely would be a really nice thing to bring in, and yeah, I think it just would benefit this Washington Wizards team quite a bit. Now, moving on to pick number 9, we do have the New Orleans Pelicans, who are in an extremely weird spot where they have this really awesome roster. The issue is they just got players who don't want to stay healthy, unfortunately. Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram are two of the best forwards in the league, but they're never on the court, never even on the court together. And when they actually did manage to play some games, we did see that the New Orleans Pelicans were like, I think at one stage, the 3rd seed in the West, and looked really, really nice, but they just had a bunch of injuries, and they just fell down, even falling past the Lakers, who they own, pick swaps for. So yeah, it's just an extremely unfortunate thing for them. I wouldn't be surprised if they traded this pick. I just don't really know what more they need. You could definitely go for a playmaker and maybe something like that, but you've got a hidden gem sitting there like Dyson Daniels, who I think could be exactly like Josh Giddey. Other than them both being Australian, they're both 6'7", pass first type of dudes with decent jumpers who can defend pretty nice on the ball. So he's already kind of there for you. I really don't know what else this team needs. They just need to stay healthy and hope the development of players like Dyson Daniels pans out, because if Daniels becomes what they had Lonzo doing in New Orleans, if not even a lot better, which I think he could, then you should have a really good team, and he'd be an awesome player to keep alongside Zion, CJ, Brandon Ingram. But yeah, you maybe just adding a really nice role player would be the right way to go here. And I think one of the best role players in this draft with the 9th overall pick does happen to be Grady Dick, who is an extremely efficient player who I think has an extremely well-versed jump shot, who could be a guy that very similar to a player like Reggie Bullock, who is kind of being compared to right now, as a guy who you can chuck in the corner every now and then, and of course be a really, really good shooter, a guy who can play the 2 and the 3, but also defend the perimeter really well, which is what Grady Dick has done. Of course, he's from Kansas, and in his season that he has played for them, he's been averaging an extremely efficient 14 points per game, which has been really good. It's being said that Grady Dick is a very versatile wing who is a great shooter with high upside. He's a good athlete who is great at moving without the ball and can always find a good place for a catch and shoot. He's great floor spacing forward with good shot creation ability. My thing is, this team does have already a couple of really nice shooters, but I think if your goal is to have, Dyson Daniels and Zion Williams as your, point forwards, which I think is what they're trying to build and have been trying to build right now in New Orleans for a little bit, then you're going to need some shooters around them. They've, of course, got Trey Murphy, who's there, CJ, Brandon Ingram, and a couple other dudes here and there. but they do still lack some shooting sometimes. Josh Richardson's not an elite shooter. Herbert Jones is not a very good shooter at all. I don't think Jose Alvarado, from remembrance, is a very good shooter. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of lacking on shooting here and there. I don't think Valanciunas has been that good from 3 this season, and has definitely dropped off quite a bit as well to kind of what he used to be. But yeah, I just think if you're going to want to have Zion and, you know, Dyson Daniels as like 2 of the point forwards, you're going to need to add some shooting. And I think a dude like Grady Dick, who can not only add you some really nice 3-point shooting, but he can also be very, very efficient and, I think, reliable. I think you're kind of looking at a dude like Corey Kispert from one of the previous drafts, who I think is averaging around a good, efficient 10 points per game or so for the Wizards. But you're looking at kind of that player, I think, but with Reggie Bullock's type of defense, and a much better perimeter guy who can definitely, I think, switch a lot better, and that's why he's, I think, rated so highly. I think there's also a very big kind of, I think, spectacle that this guy could be a really good shot creator in the league as well, because right now, really, the low that you'd think this guy would achieve is just being a good shooter, right? But I think the high of what he could be is not only a good shooter who can defend, but maybe a guy who could create his own shot when there's an absence of a Brandon Ingram or a Zion Williamson. I feel like maybe that's another thing the Pelicans might need, is as soon as these guys go down, you have no one who can really fill in and create these shots. You're not really going to have a guy like Larry Nance come in and do any of that type of stuff. I just don't think that's practical and, you know, realistic to see Larry Nance just pulling up from the mid-range and creating his own shot. That's the issue with this Pelicans team but it could be solved right here with a guy like Grady Dick, who, with a healthy Zion and a healthy Brandon Ingram, he can be a really nice 3-point shooter who can defend the perimeter and switch. But without Zion and without Brandon Ingram, maybe this Grady Dick guy could be a very nice shot creator who can do it on both sides of the court. I think that's what you're kind of wanting if you're the New Orleans Pelicans. And then once you've got him, and you of course develop Dyson Daniels into hopefully the guy you want him to be, maybe fix up their centers, because Jackson Hayes and Valanciunas haven't been that good. Or hell, maybe even run Zion as a small ball center. That'd be, yeah, unstoppable. I think you're going to have a very, very good New Orleans Pelicans team, you know, in the future. Now, with the last pick, we've got pick number 10, and that is the Orlando Magic. And with this pick, I will, of course, have them selecting Taylor Hendricks, who's a 6'9" power forward, who was definitely kind of rose, you know, as a high, you know, drafted player on this list. I think that a lot of people had him a little further down, you know, a month or two ago, but he's really kind of, again, rose to be a really nice player. And at the time of making this video, I think his comparison is actually a bit of a Jeremy Grant type of guy, a 6'9" power forward who can maybe switch to that small forward position, play some nice defense, but hopefully be, you know, a good 3-point shooter as well. I think this is a nice thing that could add to the Orlando Magic. I'm not exactly too sure if he is the best player available with this pick. I think there might be a couple more players available, but of course they're all guards, and the Orlando Magic have so many guards. Not just that, even though he might not be the best player available at this pick, I actually think Taylor Hendricks might have the best potential nearly out of all the players I've got available, because you kind of know what you're going to get, and he's even been titled as Mr. Versatility on the court. Some people are calling him, as he's just a kind of guy who's so versatile out there. He can really do it all, and I just think there's not really too much of a knock on this guy. It's being said that he's an extremely good dunker, and just kind of really puts those highlight plays on the court. He's a really good pick and roll type of player. that has potential to be really nice in the NBA. His defense is also really good, having a really awesome ability to block shots, and he gets in the passing lanes very, very comfortably, and it just seems like a really nice overall fit there as well. It's being said as well that he's also kind of maybe even being compared to a bit of an Andrew Wiggins type of mold if Jeremy Grant isn't the one, which makes me think that, yeah, not only can this guy guard the small forward and power forward, but maybe there's the potential that some people see for him to maybe even switch onto a shooting guard in the NBA, which is very hard to kind of find, in a 6'9" type of guy. Like, I mean, you look at Kevin Love, who's 6'8", and he can barely even guard his own position, right? You're looking at a dude who's 6'9" who can maybe push to that shooting guard position as well. The Andrew Wiggins comparison is something I really like. Just a guy who has an extremely nice knack on the defensive end, who's really, really athletic and can put a nice flashy play, on the court as well. It seems like his shooting ability is pretty nice as well. And again, I think that's where he gets his Jeremy Grant, type of comparison as well, where in terms of a guy who can, guard the power forward and small forward, but be a nice shooter, it seems like you can almost slot this guy in as a role player, or maybe potentially down the line try and see if he could become a shot creator. I think right now that is kind of the dream, to see if he could become a good shot creator in the league. But I think what a lot of people are saying is right now is this is the type of dude who could be maybe an all-star type of role player. And what I mean by that is, I think Andrew Wiggins is the perfect example. He's not the best player on his team. In fact, he's seen as by a role player by some, but almost too good to be recognized as that. And that's what happened to Andrew Wiggins. He was so good at being an elite role player that he became an all-star and an all-star starter. And I think this is what could happen with this type of guy. I feel like he'd be a really awesome Jonathan Isaac type of replacement, who they unfortunately haven't really had the services of due to all the injuries that guy has unfortunately had in the last couple of years of his career. I think they will definitely lose him. He'll probably leave for a fresh start or something like that. And you bring in a dude like Taylor Hendricks, who can really kind of replace everything that Jonathan Isaac did in those really nice couple of games that he played for the Magic this season. He also fits really well into this team, as they don't have a lot of forwards at the moment other than Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner. They're not really developing, I think, anyone else there. And if they keep all their guards and all of that type of stuff, and maybe sign a center and bring Taylor Hendricks off, maybe to start off the bench, and do that, I think you're going to look at a really, really nice, solid team. And I just think he kind of fits what the Orlando Magic are really looking for right now. But of course, if you haven't already, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to comment your thoughts and opinions down below. Do you guys agree with my picks, or would you guys have maybe selected someone else with a couple of the picks that I've taken? I definitely would really like to know. Of course, don't forget to subscribe to my gaming channel and my IRL/vlog channel, and of course this channel for all the latest sports content, sports news, all of the above. But as I was saying, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Comment your thoughts and opinions down below, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.